Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Naumia Accord is a promise by the French Republic to grant political power to Reunion, Guadeloupe, New Caledonia, Mayotte. The answer to this is New Caledonia. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a mention of New Caledonia. Let us try and understand what is this New Caledonia issue all about. We have France as a country. Outside Europe, it also has control over number of islands as well. One such island where it has control outside Europe is what is called as overseas France, and one such place is the New Caledonia. What is this New Caledonia? This is an island. Where is it present? It is in Pacific Ocean. What is the conflict? You have two groups in this particular place. One happens to be the Kanak population. The Kanak are the indigenous people in the New Caledonia. Then you also have Caldoche. Who are these Caldoche? These are the European dependents. So these people who want the independence, who want to go away from the France, are called as the Kanak population. They are the pro-independence movement people, and you also have the descendants from the European population called as Caldoche. So the New Caledonia conflict is about those people who want independence from France. Then there are other section of people who want to retain their sovereignty with respect to France. So one of the accords called as Naumia Accord was a promise made by the French Republic to grant political power to New Caledonia if there is a referendum considered, and if the referendum says that majority of the people want to go away from France, that is when it will be provided to the New Caledonian people. So basically, if referendum is held, France would after a transition period hand over control to the indigenous population, and if they do not want this independence, France will also provide generous subsidies to this particular region of New Caledonia. But as of now, this particular article goes on to say New Caledonia ought to remain part of France. So France in the near future may continue to provide subsidies, and it will be part of the overseas France. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to tornadoes. They occur most often in association with thunderstorms in both northern and southern hemispheres. Tornadoes have been observed on every continent except Antarctica. They occur mostly in tropical warm areas. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a mention of tornado. What are tornadoes? Tornadoes are nothing but swirling winds. As you see from the image, they are the vertical columns that which are formed from the thunderstorms and stretch up to the ground. So as they move, whatever comes their way is completely distracted, and what we have is a major disaster as shown in the image. So what happens? They travel with such ferocious speed and they put all that comes in their way into destruction. When you look into the first option, yes, tornadoes occur most often in association with the thunderstorms, and it is seen both in the northern as well as in the southern hemisphere. They do not occur in the tropical warm areas. Instead, they occur in the mid latitudes, where within the region of 20° and 60° north and south of the hemisphere. And remember, they are frequently associated with thunderstorms and develop in those regions where you have the cold polar air meeting the tropical air. And yes, the second statement is right, as tornadoes have been observed on every continent except Antarctica. There have been more number of these tornadoes in North America as a continent. And if we have to speak about country in absolute numbers, United States of America sees most number of tornadoes. Are these tornadoes in United States of America related to climate change? Scientists are still trying to understand if this is related to climate change or not. But in the near future, United States of America may see more tornadoes occur in the winter season. That is because there is rise of the temperature, and this may have consequences to United States of America. Now let's look into the next practice question. The governor of a state is the chancellor of state universities, state and central universities, state and private universities, state, central and private universities. The answer to this is the governor of a state is the chancellor of state universities. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference in this article. This article speaks about governor's role in state and central universities. What is the role of governor in the state universities? When it comes to the governor, he is the ex officio chancellor of the universities in that state. What about the vice chancellors? Who appoints them? This is where we have number of political disputes. There are few states which have their own laws. These laws clearly state that it is the governor who appoints them, but this is on the advice and in consultation with the state government. So the vice chancellor is appointed by the governor, but this happens in consultation with the state government. Such example is in the state of Rajasthan. However, there are some other states like Kerala where that is appointed independently of the Council of Ministers, and the governor takes his own decision on all university matters. So what we see is a dispute. You have the law in a particular state, the law defines it, and ultimately the vice chancellors are appointed. But there are issues and concerns when it comes to appointment in multiple disputes. How about the central universities? We have the Central Universities Act of 2009. According to it, we have the President of India who will be the visitor of the central university. President will be the visitor of the central university. It is the president who will appoint the chancellor. The governor is not the chancellor of the central universities, but instead you would have the president, and it is the president on his capacity as a visitor who would appoint chancellors in central universities, who would be the titular heads. So the vice chancellors too are appointed by the president from the panel of names picked by the search and selection committee, which is formed by the union government. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section which is the only central university in India which has prime minister as its chancellor. Do we also have vice president as the chancellor of some university? Please put it on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements with respect to Parliament House are correct? The building was designed by the British architects Sir Edwin Lutyens and Sir Herbert Baker. The foundation stone was laid by Prince Arthur, Duke of Connaught and Strathern in 1921. It is said to have been based on Chausat Yogini temple in Rajasthan. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of the Parliament House. It is 20 years ago that we had an attack on the Parliament, which is why we have this article reference on the Hindu. When you look into the first statement, yes, it is correct. When you look into the second statement, yes, the second statement is right. However, the third statement is partially right and partially wrong. Yes, it was inspired from Chausat Yogini temple, but this is not based in Rajasthan, but instead it is based in Madhya Pradesh. So remember, when we speak about the Parliament House, it is inspired from the Chausat Yogini temple, and this is present in the state of Madhya Pradesh, and it is one of the few well-reserved Yogini temples in India. Now if we look into this article, it speaks about the terrorist attack, and this year marks the 20th year where the terrorist attack happened on the Indian Parliament. It happened on December 13, 2001. The terrorists killed as many as 14 people. Mostly these were the security personnel and few civilians as well. And this attack was operated by Pakistani supported terrorist groups like the Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to religious history of India, consider the following statements. Sautrantika and Samithya were the sects of Jainism. Sarvastivadin held that constituents of phenomenon were not wholly momentary but existed forever in a latent form. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why? Sautrantika and Samathiya were the sects of not Jainism, but instead these are the sects of Buddhism. So the first statement is wrong, and when it comes to the second statement, yes, it is right. So the answer to this would be 2 only. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2017. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is Kutumbashri. What is this Kutumbashri model all about? We have heard about self-help groups. What are these self-help groups? Where people come together on their own, they form one of the groups and ultimately they empower themselves. One such example that we have in the state of Kerala is what is called as Kutumbashri. Initially, it was sponsored and helped by the government, but over a period of time, it continues to be one of the momentary examples which can be implemented anywhere in the country. So, what is this Kutumbashri program all about? This is about women empowerment. This is about poverty reduction. This was a program initiated in the state of Kerala. So, this particular program has three important missions. One is the empowerment of women. Second is the participation of the women so that they engage in entrepreneurship. And third is about formation of the self-help groups. What is the motive behind introduction of this scheme? Basically, it is generally assumed that they are the passive recipients of the public assistance. They are the passive recipients of the income at their houses. This has to be changed in order to overcome this. What we require is one of the program where they are empowered, they make their own chances, they empower themselves to the tones of employment, and ultimately they take care of the family, which is what is called as Kutumbashri. Kutumbashri here basically means prosperity of the family, which should be happening at the hands of the women. This has a three-tier structure. The first and the basic unit is what is called as the neighborhood groups. Then several neighborhood groups will be networked into what is called as the area development societies, and these area development societies are federated through the community development societies. This is a three-tiered structure, and that is how these self-help groups operate in the state of Kerala. How does it work? Basically, if you look into multiple self-help groups in multiple states, you would have few castes or the dominant community, or this will be dominated by women who are from the better of families. But when it comes to the Kutumbashri, it is an inclusive program which will have women from every sector. It will have women from even the poorer societies who take the responsibility of empowering the self-help groups. So when it comes to this particular idea of Kutumbashri, in other states you also have the self-help groups, but they are dominated by women from better off families. But when it comes to this particular model, there is parity, there is inclusiveness, and ultimately women take their own decisions when it comes to this particular model. So the micro enterprises undertaken by the women in the state of Kerala empower them. It develops community bond as well, and at the same time, since they are empowering themselves, they may undertake multiple other activities like vegetable growing, poultry and dairy, catering and tailoring, and ultimately what we see is acknowledgement and rejuvenation of the women empowerment schemes and programs, and they are all rejuvenated, empowered over a period of time. So what is this program all about? This is a poverty eradication and women empowerment program implemented in the state of Kerala, and this can become a governance model which can be employed in multiple other states in India. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.